Hi everyone, this is Jeremiah Wong from Frontier Precision, and today we're going to make a video using Arterion mission control and planning a photogrammetry mission with an A7R payload. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the top right or top left up here. We're going to click, and then we're going to go to plan. The next thing we'll do after that is I'm going to go over here to this icon. I'm going to click, and I'm going to click on survey. Right when I click on survey, you'll see that it actually builds in my flight lines and whatnot already. We're still going to have to go through and change some settings on this end over here, but right now we're just going to move these to cover, I guess, this entire area to fly. So I'll just move them to the corners of where I think. I know there's a hill here, so I kind of want to show you what you can do with the terrain following, or how the terrain following works too. Alright, so now I have my boundary of where I want my flight to be, and on here you can see that it has the terrain of the flight. We do above ground level 2. So take note of that. You can actually turn this on and off on this little T button right here. But the next thing we're going to do is we're going to look on this end over here, and what I want to do is, since there's no camera type selected, we want to actually choose the camera we want. So we'll select this, go to the camera icon, select the little downward arrow, and on the payload we're going to be using is the Sony A7R with the 24mm lens. So right when we click that, you can see the mission changes a bit. Pitch is always going to be 90. We're not going to change the yaw either, so I'm going to leave those as is. The next thing you can go right here is for that terrain following. So that little terrain map that you see right here, if you actually click this button, it will download the SRTM maps and utilize those for the flight planning. So you can actually see that down here. So let's go back to the mission planning, so the little squiggly lines. So right now, if you look, we can set our flight speeds. So for this, depending on what you're doing, you can fly a little faster, a little bit slower. A lot of it will pretty much depend on the lighting conditions. If it's a bright sunny day, you can definitely fly a bit faster, but if it's a darker day, you got to fly a little bit slower. So for this flight, I'm just going to stick with the 7.4 meters a second. So 7.4 meters a second is equivalent to about 16.5 miles an hour. For front and side overlap, again, it defaults to 70%, and I will generally leave them at 70%. If you go a bit lower than that, some software will have trouble processing that data, so I usually will use a minimum of 70-70. In terms of flight altitude, this is where you can change your flight altitude. So right now it's going to be flying at 50 meters. I want to fly a little bit higher, so I'm just going to type in 80 for 80 meters, and then it's going to go through and replan that mission at 80 meters with the proper spacing. You also have the option to choose in between your setting it by altitude or setting it by ground sampling distance. So if you want to set it through ground sampling distance, you just click the GSD button right there, but I generally plan using altitude. Next thing is down here is your pattern angle. So you can actually go through and change the orientation of your flight pattern. So depending on your flight or how you want to fly it, I generally like to fly long ways along the longest, I guess, edge of the boundary. It generally nets you a faster flight time. It's just a more efficient path with straight lines. But again, it depends on your situation and what you're trying to achieve. The turnaround distance is actually the margins on the end. So how much further out do you want to fly than your boundary? So you can change that right there. Usually I'll overfly a bit just to ensure I capture everything within the area needed. The next thing, so this button right here is to rotate entry point. So you can see the start and end. If you rotate it, you can see that swaps the start and end. And then one more thing I will say right here. You can have images and turnaround, so when it goes through and turnarounds, it'll continue to snap those images too. But besides that, there's one thing you can also do is you can also save presets too. So we can have all these presets saved, and you can call them up back here to be used at any time. So you don't have to go through and reset these for every single flight that you do. But other than that, this is how you go through and make a mission for photogrammetry with an Arterion mission control. If you have any questions, feel free to email us at uas@frontierprecision.com, and I'll talk to you guys later.